All right. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us live. If you are listening to the replay after this, then you are so lucky that I hit record and that Emily reminded me to hit record so that you are a part of this valuable conversation that we are going to have today about social anxiety. And social anxiety isn't something that I think would have ever come up as like a live topic for me. I would never be like, wow, that is something that we should really talk about. But it has been coming up so often, not only in the Facebook community, but also like the private messages that I'm having with people. A lot of people are genuinely coming to me with the concern of social anxiety. So I think that we should tackle this, or at least start tackling and unpacking a very, very complex body and mental reaction that we're having, so that we can start learning about ourselves a little bit more deeply and comfortably. I think a lot of the experience of social anxiety is because we're uncomfortable with people seeing our anxiety. And that is something that I have busted through, which I'm really excited for you to see in action tomorrow. Me and Emily are actually going to do something social together tomorrow. We thought it would be a fun experiment if we just did it. And then I also had this chat. I'm just kidding. We are going somewhere social out of our own volition, which is both outside of our comfort zones, but we're going to do it together and stare at each other from across the room and be like, it's a terrible idea. So let's get started by just talking about what social anxiety looks like for you. Wait, no, pause, stop me. Can you introduce yourself? Like everyone, they all know who I am, but like no one knows who you are. And like, I'm just having this conversation. Like we're all good. You guys know Emily. No, Emily is one of my patients.
I have been for like what, a year and a half, 2 years?
Yeah. Yes. And we have seen epic growth, but I want her to introduce herself to you guys so that, you know who you're talking with / peering at through the computer for the next hour. So introduce yourself. Tell us what you do. Tell us about yourself. Feel really uncomfortable and have social anxiety right at the beginning of our live chat.
Triggering the social anxiety right away. Like Jenna said, my name's Emily. I've been a patient of hers for about 2 years. I work in digital marketing. So I've been in sales before. I've done a lot of client-facing work with all of the social anxiety. So it's been a wild ride.
Yeah. And you're like someone who would not be pegged as someone who has social anxiety. Like people would always say to you, you're so good at your job. You're so competent. We're going to send you out and go do this. And you should have this live talk here and you should do that. And you're just like, is that really how you see it? Because I don't feel that way.
Melting away.
Yeah. And like for me, I would never have described myself as someone who has social anxiety. I don't even think that was ever in my register. Like I just never thought of that of myself, but I knew that I was so awkward. And I just thought that like, that's what people felt like.
Same.
I thought that just people had that narrative in their head or that they were having the same experiences. And I'm like, oh, we're just here and we're awkward together and everything's fine. But as I've gotten older, I realized that I'm the only one having that experience. And I'm like hella uncomfortable, but everyone else is doing just fine. And that's probably why I married my husband.
Yeah, I think I've even said to you before, I was like, Jenna, I don't have social anxiety. And you were like, okay.
Yeah.
For sure. And then it became a little more apparent the more I paid attention to it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people associate social anxiety with going out to like a party. And they'll be like, well, I can do that. Or social anxiety, like I can talk to my friends. You're like, I can do that. Sometimes it just shows up in random places. I think that I probably do better with my social anxiety in like a giant room of people, like live on a webinar with, however many people are watching versus being in a room with like 2 of my very close friends. I'm like, it's so fascinating how it will play a role. So let's talk about how now social anxiety looks like for you. So where do you see it come up in your life?
So for me, it's more in like small group settings. So when I'm one-on-one with someone, I'm typically okay. I'm also like more okay in that setting to be like, whoa, I'm a little bit anxious right now. But in small group settings, I cannot figure it out. It's a lot harder to contribute to a conversation with a lot of people around, trying to figure out timing, all of that stuff. But I could go
Like, you mean timing to say something? Like,
I
you're
need to
just
say
like,
something. I'm like, I don't know how to enter the conversation. I miss the moment, like my tone, and like the thoughts start going when I'm in a smaller group, like 4 to 6 people. I'm a disaster.
yeah. That just
Um,
reminded me of like a memory when I was a kid. Core memory unlocked.
yeah.
I remember once I was like really young, and I know some of you guys know that I was a dancer. So I was doing like a professional dance gig, and I was with these people that were way older than me, and they didn't know how old I was. I think at the time I was like 13 or 14. But they were like in their like late 20s, and I was just like chilling there, like sitting, like staring at everyone. And one person in the group called me out and was like, "Yo, Jenna, like, why the fuck are you sitting over there like a fucking owl?" And I was like, you noticed me? I don't want to be noticed. But also I can totally resonate with the in the group setting. It's like you're like, everyone else is talking, so I don't have to talk, so I don't have to flex the muscle. And I can also just listen and like wait for something to say, but I can also just not and just be anxious and stuck in my head and disengage. Um, and also like there's so many more voices there to judge you when you do hop in to
Yeah,
say something. And I do understand that weird like 4 to 6 people situation a
yeah.
lot.
It can
So
be intense, especially when you don't really know a lot of people. And like it gets overwhelming very quickly for me. But I could go to a party with 60 people and be like, this is fine. I can beep bop around, I can talk to different people, I can
I can't
maneuver.
do that. So good for you.
Yeah,
But also you are good with one-to-one. So we'll talk
yeah.
about like the deficiencies I have in a one-to-one setting versus in like me not being able to wait. This sounds like I can't do a lot more than you. It's okay. We're gonna have a great conversation about it. So when I asked you, what does it look like for you? Is it just that you dissociate? I mean, you've mentioned this before in like a
Mhm.
patient visit with me, but like you'll
Yeah,
say that you'll be at the social situation and you like dissociate from what's happening and you're like, am I even here? Or like,
yeah.
am I watching this? Am I here? Like I'm feeling things right now. So is that the consistent feeling that you get with social anxiety?
Yes, that is one of the things. But it kind of starts off with like me noticing my voice starting to shake. I feel like I can't move because if I touch anything, like I'm gonna
Oh
knock
my
stuff
God.
over. Like just it becomes a very chaotic moment for me. I also get like very red and blotchy, and then I just start thinking about how everyone can see these things.
I've worked with another patient who like her main symptom was like, I get red and blotchy in front of people and I want to work on that. I'm like, we will do that.
Yeah.
Like an interesting symptom to bring to the table. Yeah, for me, I definitely resonate with that like stiffness. Like if I feel like I'm socially anxious, I can, if I had a mirror of like watching myself in a situation, I could be like stuck like this and I would just like withhold the weird position that I'm in for no reason. Like I have to remind myself to be like, like just like relax, like drop your
Yeah.
shoulders. Like even if I'm with a group of friends like on the couch and I'm like not comfortable in that setting, I will literally be like sitting in the weirdest way and then being like in my head, I'm like, why am I sitting like this? Why is that happening?
Yeah.
And I recognize that it's like my body is obviously not comfortable where I am, and I'll really notice it in my face. Like sometimes my face will be stuck like this.
And you
Like
just
I'm
can't
I'm
do
like,
anything about
yeah,
it.
I'm like, why? Like, I'm holding my face weird. Like I'm smiling or I'm like holding my mouth a certain way, but like, why am I doing that? And that's like the rumination in my head of like, why is this happening? Like,
Yeah.
why am I not relaxed right now? It makes no sense for me to be feeling this way. And now I actively have to like relax and let go. And I feel like I look like some Teletubby just being like, just being like, I'm having a good time. And then being like, huh, and like taking off my mask behind me and then being like, whoo, that was tough work. I'm like sitting there sweating,
Yeah.
trying to like maintain a position, but I'm like, no one even knows that I'm holding this position. Like, just let it go. It's like I'm
Yeah.
doing dance choreography, like
Yeah.
just to sit on a couch. And I do find that so odd that my body responds like that, or like, and then you're like thinking in your head, you're narrating that it's happening and you've missed
Mhm.
90% of what the person said. And you're like,
And then
fuck.
And then
Yeah.
you get stressed because you can't respond to them.
Yeah.
And you're like, I didn't prepare a response because I don't know what you said. And
Yeah.
then it's game over.
It's like, you know, that meme where it's like, how many times can you say what until you realize that you just don't know what the person said? It's like there's only a certain amount of times you can go,
Yeah.
sorry, can you say that again?
Yep.
But yeah, I get that. I get like stuck in my head and then I'm like, so it's almost like self-involved. And it's
It,
like the person doesn't even know that I'm thinking this. They're just
it
trying to talk
feels
to me.
so vain because you're like so concerned with your own experience that you're not even paying attention to what the other person is saying. You're not engaging with the conversation. I do that with
Mhm.
like fidgeting my hair. I start noticing like all of the uncomfortable things I'm doing. I'm like, Emily, stop doing the fidgeting. Like, just get over it. And I can't. And then I've missed the conversation.
Yeah, I really like just the more you talk about it, like I just really notice it in my mouth. Like I
Mhm.
feel like, and this might be, and when I think about it, it might be a projection of what the other person is seeing me do. But like I want my face to look a certain way so that they feel comfortable or like they feel that I'm engaged or they feel
Yeah.
that everything's going fine. But like inside, I'm just like, like I can't not do it. Because
Right.
if I let my face go, that I look like a total asshole.
Yeah. Resting. Am I
Yeah.
allowed to swear?
Yeah. I've sworn 500 times already.
Okay, great.
Resting bitch face.
Resting bitch face. I am a culprit of that. I get told
Yeah.
all the time. When I fully
Yeah.
relax my face, not the friendliest.
Yeah. I would agree that I've seen what my face looks like when it's not being put on. And I would agree that I'm like an unapproachable or I look like I look upset or like
Yeah.
angry. And then I'm like, yeah, that's like not appropriate for a social setting, or I don't want another person to read my face that way. So I really do adjust. And that's where my mind gets stuck. Does
Mhm.
anyone else like who's watching right now? Do you guys get that too? Where you find your body's just like doing something and you're like, what is this? Even like if you're on a first date with someone, or maybe you've been dating a person for like 4 or 5 months and you're like, why can't I relax? And it's like, I don't know. It's not like I have to almost bring up, which I don't love talking about, you know, people in my life live, but welcome to the oversharing party. So like I have had multiple best friends who have pursued me over the years, and me and Emily have talked about this in private as well.
Yeah.
Where like I recognize that they're good people and like we should be friends and you know, they're nice and we get along and we're having fun, but like I am so uncomfortable for like 6 months to a year of building that relationship, and I'm like, it's a minute for the long haul, a minute for the long haul, just stick with it, just stick with it. And it's funny because like from the outside looking in, that person has no idea that I'm uncomfortable, but
Mhm.
like it's like I'm exhausted every time I would leave it chill with any of these people because I just felt like I was putting it on. And then eventually it's like, okay, fine, like I can relax now. But there's a lot of people who don't make it past that 6 months to a year mark with relationships or with friends. And it's like sometimes you have to recognize that if you have a deficiency that's associated with a symptom of social anxiety like that, that you can't just trust like your gut feeling or your intuition about someone. Like you
No.
just have to keep engaging in the activity until one day it feels safe. And like there might not be a rational reason why your body doesn't feel safe and it can't let go or it's having that reaction, but it does go away. The same way that public speaking, when I was a kid, I used to, you know, like projects and then they would make you come up and like present your Bristol board.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I used to shit my pants. Like I would practice in my room.
Oh
I would
yeah.
practice for every single family member I owned, my dog. I would be like doing all, and I was like, I was scared. And then I would get there and I'd be like shaking in my boots and doing this presentation, being like, and like I was choking on my words. And I was like, why am I so anxious? I've done this 500 times. Like, what is the big deal? And I think that that's how to go from that to now being able to talk live and just be like, la di da, whatever happens, happens. That's a testament to just sticking out sometimes what is a symptom of something.
Yeah.
Instead of like you can't do this or you shouldn't do this because it's bad or you shouldn't put yourself in the situation because like that's how you respond to it. It's like some of us take time to feel safe in an environment that is objectively safe, but for some reason internally it's not. So I feel like we kind of covered what it feels like in your body. I mean, the voices, the sensation, like sweaty. I want to like, yeah, I'm seeing someone wrote here, like I shaken, go in a cold sweat. Like I'm like schwitzed, like sweaty when I'm in a social situation.
Yeah, the
It,
stress sweat, my hands get clammy. My friends
oh
used to make fun of me because my hands would be so sweaty every time we would be in a social setting.
yeah, it.
Uncontrollable.
Now, here's the thing, and I want to ask like the crowd who's listening as well. Have you guys ever noticed that someone else is so socially anxious? Like, are you noticing someone else's sweaty palms or like noticing their redness or blotchiness or their shaking? Like, do you guys notice it in other people or are you just noticing it in yourself? Because I haven't come across many people, like you're saying your friends because they know you and you would joke about the
Yeah,
sweaty
they're
palms.
very close to me. They make fun of me because we
Yeah.
have a very close relationship like that.
I've never like caught someone and been like, are you anxious right now because your palms are sweating? Like I've never seen someone be that socially anxious. And usually with me, I'll just be like, yo, you anxious right now? Me too. Same. Because you if you see it and you know it, you can identify it. But I just wanted to know if anyone else like really sees other people having these reactions. Is it difficult for maybe some of you to understand that other people have this narrative going on in their head? Like it's not just you. You have two people right now sitting on the screen telling you about the bridled conversation they're having in their brain. This isn't unique to us. So it's funny when you think about like going out to a party or meeting new people or going on a date and you're like leaving being like, what just happened? I can almost guarantee you that like most people are having that experience being like, what just happened? Who did I talk to? What was that? Like, right? So let's pivot.
Okay.
This one's a funny one. Okay. What lengths will you go to avoid social situations?
Oh, I I mean, they're pretty far lengths. Like I will like work overtime. That was a big thing for me. If there was something that I was supposed to go to, I would just work a double shift, like all the time with the working. I mean, I'm exposing myself now, but I have a dog. So that becomes a really great excuse to get out of things. Um, I mean, it also depends who's inviting me and like how close I am with this person, and who's going to be there. But if I'm close with them, I'll tell them like, no, not my scene. But if I'm not as close, I'll come up with something.
Yeah, the dog thing is funny because I think some people can relate to the dog stuff, but also like babies. You'd be like, oh, we just like don't want to come. Someone has to watch the baby, or like, oh, we're gonna leave early because of the nap schedule. So those two excuses are pretty funny. I don't really know. Okay. So if it's something I'm comfortable with, like if it's my family, my friends, well, no, even I'm listening to the excuses in my head of what I'll make. But like if it's something I don't want to go to because I don't want to put it on,
Yep.
I will actually just be like, no. Why not? Because I don't want to. Right? It's like I don't want to be uncomfortable for 5 extended hours of like having small talk. Oh, small talk.
I only commit to about an hour of time. Like I tell myself going into anything, this will be an hour. I can do an hour. And then from there, I'll time block my day, be like, I gotta go at 2 p.m. because I have X, Y, and Z so that I can leave the social situation.
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. I'll just be like, yeah, I only have from this time to this time. What if there's like, hey, let's use tomorrow as an example. Cause like everyone knows that me and you are going to a party tomorrow and we're both locked in. We're not allowed to bail now.
Yeah,
we are doing an experiment for the people. But what would happen? Let's say you're in a situation where you have to go out on a Friday night. Yep. Your friends have made plans with you. You know what's happening. You have your unfortunate outfit picked out. Like, what's happening. You have to attend. It's going down.
Okay.
Will you at all times attend, or will the social anxiety get in the way and there's like a 50% chance you are making an excuse of not going?
No. So I'm always going to go. If I commit to something, I will show up, but I only commit to something 3 or 4 days in advance because like, I'm not making plans 6 weeks out. That's an absolute no. There's way too much time for me to change my mind.
Yeah, I'm like a last minute knower.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
Like
surprising me because
like
I'll stick to it.
yeah, I definitely like it, depending on how I'm feeling, like if I really don't want to be pushed. And obviously I'm not talking about bigger events, but like
Yeah.
let's say, well, I really hope they're not listening. Let's say my in-laws invite me over for dinner and I really that day just like I just don't have it in me to just like
Put on a
sometimes
face.
I'll just be like, no, dog. It's not happening. Like I'm not actually not even doing it for the greater good.
Mhm.
And I think that a lot of people from the outside looking in, like would see that as selfish or see it as like not the right thing to do. I mean, my parents are from the generation of the right thing to do.
Right.
Like you always got to do the right thing. And
Yeah.
I think that we're a part of the generation where it's like, yeah, like let's balance the right thing to do, but also have some boundaries around what's going to make us want to pass away at the end of the day or not. And sometimes it's really not good for your nervous system to push yourself and do that.
Mhm.
I'm seeing Hayden comment right now. I need to read all of your comments in the chat. Has anyone tried not putting on a face and being honest? Yes, me.
Yes.
So here's the unfortunate truth about me. I have a disease where I like don't know how to not be honest. Like I've tried lying before. It just doesn't work. I don't know if it's because you see it on my face or if I just don't give a shit, but I'll just be like, no, and this is why. Or no, I don't feel like it. And this is what needs to happen for me. And like as long as I mean, I wouldn't I'm saying I wouldn't ditch a singular person, but no, I would. I would cancel plans if I need to for whatever reason that I need to. Just because I sometimes don't want to put the face on to
Yeah.
do it. And then there's also the times in your life where you're like, no, I am going to put on the face and do it, because having that mood shift and doing the thing and showing yourself that you can do it sometimes is extremely beneficial. But I do recognize
I
that.
admire that honesty though. Like that it's hard to do when like if you don't want to disappoint people and you've committed and like it's hard to be that honest. So I admire that about you.
Yeah, I think that some people would say, like I love memes and I love social media because it always like gives us a bump to be like, you've seen this one. It's like if it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no. Right? Like I don't want to confuse my nervous system. I don't want to be going into a situation being like, I'm supposed to like this. This is supposed to be fun. This is good for you. This is this. And then inside my body's just like, like I just sounded like the Grinch. I I don't want that confusion, because that confusion is going to make me feel something way worse even down the line subconsciously than it just is by being honest and saying no.
Yeah.
But then there are times where I will recognize that it is my social anxiety getting in the way, and I'm just like like we don't need you right now.
Yeah. I'm
Right.
gonna test that for now and come back to it later.
Yeah. So we already covered what situations you're not comfortable in, the
Mhm.
4 to 6 people rule. Which situations are you comfortable in?
One-on-one, I feel pretty decent for the most part. I like it's just a little bit easier for me to handle that conversation. It's less information coming in, I guess.
I was
Less
just gonna say that. Is it like
noise.
sensory overload? Like there's
Yeah.
like too much happening where you're just like can't organize it, and it's like one person and you're there.
Yeah. So like when I can really like connect with one person, it gets a lot easier because I can listen and I'm less aware, like there's less eyes on me. Less people are watching me. Less people are listening to me.
There's
It's a,
lots of people watching you
I
right now.
don't remind me. So that situation I for the most part am really comfortable in. I can do parties if I'm in the right mood for it, but
Mm.
it depends. I always need like an easy way out of it. Like like I said, I'll do an hour, but I need an escape plan in case things
We're
don't
gonna
go
we're gonna talk about the escape plans. I
okay.
have
Perfect.
we have it in queue. Okay.
Perfect.
The situations that I feel comfortable in are, which is funny because I've selected it as my career choice, but like I feel extremely comfortable when I'm having like deep intellectual conversations with people.
Yeah.
Um, and it does become funny for me because like, I show up to a party and someone's like, oh, you do mental health, and then suddenly they're like And I'm
Get
like,
everyone's life
sweet. I'm
story.
like, I'm going to be lit about this conversation. But yeah, most of the time if it's topical or like surfaced, or like I'm on a walk with someone and they're like talking about like the weather and like how's your life, and like I don't really know them, or like I don't know how to, I'm not really in those situations because I get social anxiety. But it's like the second that I can laser in and be like, ooh, we're connected now because I get you. And that also leads me to do something which is very on brand for me, which is just in alignment with the symptom that I have with social anxiety, but I have to overshare. And it's not about making other people feel comfortable. I've thought about that in my head. Am I just trying to like
Yeah.
make them feel like I like them, like they're wanted, like they're like important enough to tell things to? It's like, no. Something happens in my brain where I'm like, in order for me to be comfortable right now, I need you to know everything about me. And it's like it's like I think it's almost like a mirror way of me saying like, that's what I want from you. I want you to be yourself completely, and I want to know who you are, and I don't want you to be bullshitting me on the surface, because that's going to make me more anxious than just.
I was just gonna say, you're looking for authenticity from people. Like, I'm a person, I'm trying to figure out what someone else wants for me when I'm in a conversation from them. I'm a Gemini. I try to figure it out. So like even in conversation with you, I'm like, Jenna just wants me to be authentic, honest, and like completely myself. So when you act like that, you do get that mirror kind of behavior.
Yeah. So I think for me, it makes me anxious. It makes me socially anxious when people are inauthentic, which is why
Yeah.
parties are a struggle for me.
Yeah.
Or like it makes me socially anxious when I can tell that someone's out of alignment. Like if I can feel that someone like doesn't like themselves and they're like lying to me, I'm literally just like, we're gonna go the other way. Like I can't even begin to like sit in, and it's not because there's a judgment. It makes me tweak out. It's
And you can't
almost like
respond.
it's like my nervous system is just like, no, like
Yeah.
that person doesn't, like, we're not going to click. And the thing about human beings is we're like extremely social creatures, and we have to behaviorally and biologically, we thrive off of connection. So if I feel that lack of connection, it makes my survival signals go off. It's
Mhm.
the weirdest thing. It's almost like, and we're living in a world with a lot of like people who are not authentic and fake, and they're just like being what you want them to be. And it's like, I feel that all the time. And I also sometimes I always make a joke, like I don't read minds, but like I read minds. And like someone will be talking to me, and in my head I'm just like, no, no, no. Like, you don't
Yeah.
know who you are, and this is what you're struggling with, and this is what your childhood trauma is, and this is, and it's like I can't. I actually have to just leave. And that for me is like going to a party. If it's
Yeah.
my party, it's fine. I know all you people. I know all your traumas. I know why you're here. I know why you didn't show up. I know why you're taking time in the bathroom. Like I know everyone. But like tomorrow night, like me and you going to a party, you're going to be flabbergasted if you see me talking to anyone but you or my husband or the person who invited me. It's like, I don't know how to engage in light conversation with others. And I don't even try. I call my husband my beard. He is a man with a beard. But like in social settings, like there's times where like he will go to the washroom and I will be sitting there like this.
That's
Why
why
are
you're
you
bringing
taking
two people to the party.
why are you taking so long to pee? It's like even if we go out to a concert, I like don't know what to do no one's trying to talk to me. I'm
Right.
just like, I can't, there's something about, and it's not like I don't feel comfortable being alone. I love being alone. You leave me alone all day, I'm very happy. There's something about like the weirdness, or it's like I can feel palpably, or my nervous system feels the difference between self and other.
Mm.
And if I don't feel the connection, I start feeling weird. And like, I do wonder if there's some part of like a reptilian brain that is sussing out the scene. Like if you're a kid who like went through CPTSD and you're like always sussing out the scene with like people's emotions and your parents and your like whatever's happening
Yeah.
around you, it's like, if you don't feel that the connection in your nervous system, you actually feel like unwanted and unsafe in the environment that you're in. I've
Mhm.
actually never spoken that out loud. I didn't
Yeah.
even know that was sitting inside my brain, or like I've never thought about this, which is why I love having these conversations, because I get to talk about these concepts. But that's really fascinating. that there's probably something going on with me particularly. And like, obviously we're all going to have our own experiences. Some people have actually had social trauma or they were bullied. It's like, okay, that's harder to be in an environment. Or it's like, you know, you had a parent who always like told you to shut up when you were talking. And it's like, okay, you're not going to want to talk out in a crowd. But there's something that happens within my body where it's like so under the surface. I look like I'm having a good time. I look like I'm social. I look like you could come up to me and talk to me. But if you did, I'd be like, hello. Like, I just like don't know what to say. And I've used my social anxiety to create humor around this. Like someone will come up to me and go, hey, how are you? I go, I'm pretty average. How are you? Because like, I'm not going to lie. So like, let's just not lie from the beginning. Or
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, it's funny because like someone's bound to laugh and then connect with you, and then you find your people way faster. Or like someone starts to get to know you faster, and then it's like there is that instant connection, and then you're like, huh, okay, they know I'm awkward. I lead with that. I used to lead with that when I would meet people. I'd be like, hi, my name's Jenna. I'm really fucking awkward. It's so nice to meet you. And they'd be like, no, you're not. I'm like, okay, let's just run with that. Like whatever you say is yes. That's what we're going to do today. But it is funny. And that's like a technique that I use with people all the time is expose yourself. You don't
Mhm.
have to pretend this is all happening in here. And I think that you will imagine you're talking to someone and you're like, yeah, I'm just like feeling really like overwhelmed right now, like overstimulated. I'm super anxious and my palms are sweaty. Maybe the person looks at you and they're like, okay, like you're weird. And they walk away and you're like, okay, phew, thank God I didn't waste a conversation on that person because I was going nowhere. But like
Yeah.
you might meet someone who's just like, oh my God, me too. Thank God. Right.
And then you
I'm
found a
so glad you
person.
said it. Yeah. And then you build that connection. So leading with exposure is such a powerful tool. And it's the reason why, like when I started working as a naturopathic doctor, people always said, you know, why would you tell your patients that you have anxiety and depression? I'm like, because I do. And they're going to feel more comfortable talking to me because of it. I can't just pretend I'm perfect. How would I really have that much to say about what's going on? Would you really trust me if I didn't really know what was going on?
No, I wouldn't have connected with you the way
Yeah.
that I did if you were like on a pedestal and like never experienced any of the things I had experienced. It wouldn't
Or
have worked.
still experiencing the things and doing it in
Yeah.
real time. And I
Yeah.
think that that's the interesting thing with social anxiety is it's happening in your head. And if you expose yourself and you just come out with what's happening and what you're experiencing, you're going to have a more authentic connection with someone, and your nervous system is legitimately going to go like this. But we're afraid to do that because we're afraid of what people think because of whatever the narrative is happening inside your
Yeah.
head. And I will always tell my patients, okay, that's fine that you have a bias and a belief and a thing. Just do it. Just do it and tell me what you find. I say that with everything. Someone's like, I don't think meditation is going to work for me. I'm like, do it and tell me what you find. Oh, I don't think that like, you know, doing the breath work. I'm like, do it and tell me what you find. You can tell me all your skepticism from A to Z. And she doesn't care. I just want you to do it and let me know what you find. Right. So like tomorrow I'm going to have fun with you and we're just going to put it to the test.
Yeah. We'll
And
see
we're
what
just going to
happens.
like narrate what's happening the whole time. And I'm going to tell you everything that's happening in my head. And you're going to watch me go up to someone and be like, hi, I'm Jenna. I'm so awkward. I'm literally feeling my heart rate rising right now. No idea why, you know, moving on. So that will be a funny experience for both you and I.
I can't wait.
There was another situation that I definitely feel comfortable in. Maybe I was going to tell you how, oh my goodness. There's just so many situations I feel uncomfortable.
I was
I
gonna
don't
say
even,
I feel comfortable as long as I'm doing something. Like if I'm in like if I do have a group of people around, I'm doing the dishes, I'm cooking,
I distract myself too like that.
I need to move things around, I'm cleaning, like it is as long as I'm moving and doing other things, it makes the social anxiety a little more tolerable.
I have a question that just randomly came up because I thought about a social situation where you can't do something. And I want to hear from the people who are here live right now if this happens to you. Does anyone ever feel socially anxious while you're like watching a movie or watching a concert? Where you're like, I don't know what to do with my face. I don't know how to sit. I don't know how to get like comfortable, or like you can feel something. I just want to know if anyone has that, because I'm thinking back to like the last concert I was at, and I like remember physically feeling I was just sitting in the seat, and it was like someone I loved listening to, and it's like love the music, or like if you're like at a stand-up concert, like just so awkward for no reason. No one's watching me. Everyone's watching the person on stage. Why do I feel so awkward? It's so fascinating. And like, this is, I mean, I'm obviously not sitting there freaking out about it. I'm just being like, because like I'm being introspective and watching my response and being like, that is so fascinating how that happens. Krista's saying, yes, I actually picture myself being there and it makes me nervous. We are going to talk about metaphysical thoughts of how we can prepare ourselves for this. Rhiannon, and I feel this way every day, even when I'm home alone working. It's like I lost a sense of who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing. I would say that probably we could talk about that comment for like the next 5 hours. But yeah, it's something so interesting about like I can feel, and I'm sure some people label this as like highly sensitive person or empath or whatever, but like I can feel people's nervous systems around me, and I'm like, it's like from me to we, I can like feel the web when I'm around people.
Yeah.
And there's no interaction, but I just feel how it's affecting my behavior. And I will never be able to lock this down because of course we all have our blind spots of like, why is this happening? And I don't think that it's something to be changed. I think that's a survival instinct of I can't let my guard down right now because this isn't a safe space because it is unpredictable. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I wrote down a question. What's the worst social experience that you've ever been in?
Oh my God. Can I like list a bunch of years in a row that were just.
Yeah, like
I would say
pick like core memory.
Core memories. I feel like I went through like 2 years where I was working in like a very public setting, constantly in front of people. And it was like every social interaction, they actually would like call me out. I would end every sentence going like, and I couldn't stop it. It was just like
a face tick. Like like what fires together wires together. Like you did it like one time and then it just stuck.
And it stuck for 2 years and I could feel it happening every time. And no matter what I did, I couldn't stop it.
That's honestly, that's like, this is like the most inappropriate place for me to swear, but that's fucking hilarious. Yeah, some people get like a giggle tick, you know, like they'll say something and they'll be like, oh, at the end. And you're like, wasn't funny, but sure.
Yeah, I would like grimace every time I like was trying to end a conversation or I had to call someone or like it was terrible. And I don't know why it happened. It was like 2 years of my life.
Like the muscles in the jaw and the neck just got primed and they're just like,
yeah. Yeah.
That is really funny.
Yeah.
I'm sure lots of people have facial tics. Like my husband doesn't even know that he does this and it drives me nuts. He rolls his eyes so hard. Like I will say something and it won't even be eye roll worthy. And he'll be like, and I'm like, do you know that you just did that? He's like, did what? I'm like, oh. Oh yeah. So like facial tics, people do stuff when they're anxious. That's actually, I was having that conversation about the neck stuff. Remember a few weeks ago when I had that neck thing revisit me, that spawn of the muscle in the neck. Sometimes our anxiety makes us do weird tics that it can cause jaw pain. It can cause neck pain. It can cause a headache. Guys, if you have tension headaches and you are coming home from work being like, oh my God, I don't know why I have this. It's like, pay attention to like sit with a mirror in front of your desk. Watch what's happening with the muscles in your face. If you're never like resetting and relaxing and like consciously and mindfully doing it, the same way that if you're at a friend's house and you're on the couch and you like don't want to move for whatever reason, you're coming home with back pain, like, right? And the same thing can happen at work. Like if you sit like this, or if you like, you can even sit on your elbow. You can give yourself like a radial nerve pinch and then give yourself hand drop just by doing that. So there's so many body things that can happen that get stimulated by a social anxiety setting because you're putting it on for whatever reason. And it is important to do the body work and that like the self introspection and mindfulness to be like, okay, back to balance, back to homeostasis. That's why in the program, when we did that mindfulness stuff and peace of mind method, it's like, I train you on the hour, every single hour to be getting through that muscle in your head of like, bring it back, because sometimes you're not even conscious or aware of what you're doing. Like if we're at the party tomorrow and like you're always standing with your hand on your hip and leaning into your side and you're just like holding and sustaining that for 4 hours, like I'm sure it's heck coming up to you being like, take your hand off your hip, stop leaning into your left hip, you're gonna have femur pain later. Like that is something that a lot of us don't pay attention to. And I think it's worth paying attention to instead of saying, I don't know why I have this symptom, right? Like a lot of people will say to me, I don't know why I have hip pain. And I'll be like, well, let's look at how you sit all the time. They'll be like, no, it has to do with my trauma. I'm like, no, your trauma and your nervous system is making you sit that way, which is causing the tension, which is why that's happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Like there's always a reason for this. And I think that social anxiety is a really good, a good learning lesson, because you're going to start doing things that are out of character, that are going to cause things that are going to make you question what the heck is going on. Does that make sense? Was that English? I don't know.
I think so.
To move my hair is I'm hot. I'm sweaty. I'm not anxious though.
Just
I want to also talk about the differentiation between introverted and socially anxious.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's, I think people identify if they're socially anxious, it means that they must be introverted and they do better at home. Okay. How many of you agree with that who are listening live, that you think that because you don't like social situations, it's because you must be an introvert and you're like overstimulated by the extroversion? I will wait to hear from you in the chat. Why don't you answer that question just freely? Do you think that you're an introvert? Do you think you're an extrovert? Would you even amalgamate the two, the social anxiety and an introvert?
No, I feel like for me, like they are separate. I have like extroverted traits, but like I need my alone time to have energy. Like I do not get energy from other people. It is very much like I need to have my space and be comfortable. But I don't associate that with my social anxiety. Like they seem like separate situations in my brain. What about you?
I don't know. I think that I'm an introvert who doesn't like people, who also does really well with people. Like I need my alone time, not only to recharge, but just because like I need it. I get overstimulated. I just need to be alone and like shut off and shut down. But I recognize that I'm also really good with engaging with human beings, like having conversation with them. And like, I could do that for a long, long time, even though, for me, it's like, I would say, I think I'm an introvert because I don't like people.
Okay.
Like I would say that I'm because of my social anxiety, I don't like being in social situations, which makes me come off like an introvert. But I recognize that I'm not actually an introvert because I really like hanging out with people.
Yeah.
So it was something that just like sparked my interest when I was thinking about that today, of like what I would label myself. Cause like some people will be like, I'm an extroverted introvert. And you're like, what the fuck is that? Right? Like you can't just like, there's no such thing as like, I'm going to be everything all at the same time and I'm a unicorn. It's like, no, like you are going to fall into a category. And then there's things that are mutually exclusive from that. And I think for a long time, I associated my social anxiety with being introverted. Instead of just recognizing that I'm a socially anxious extrovert who doesn't like that many people, because my nervous system can sniff out misalignment. Yeah.
You're constantly reading people.
Like, yes, I wish it would stop. I wish it would stop. People always say that. Yeah, they're like, oh my God, it's such a gift. I'm like, no, it's not.
Take it back, return it.
Yeah, which has led me down a long path of building extreme boundaries around people and how I respond and feel about things and think about things.
Yeah.
Which can sometimes, if you catch me in a vulnerable moment, whew, let the floodgates come in. And it is I have a difficult time letting go. Let's move on to the next thing that I have here on my list.
Okay.
How do you prepare yourself for a situation that you know you're going to be socially anxious in?
Oh, well, I have been very social this last probably 2 months, and will be like, I have plans, unfortunately, until like mid-January. So I actually upped my meditation like before all of this happened. Like, I'm doing 30 minutes daily, no excuses. If I make an excuse in my brain, like, I sit back down. I'm not kidding. I adjusted my work schedule to make this happen.
Can we pause for a second? I
Yeah.
don't know if you guys know this, but if you are one of my patients in peace of mind method, you are going to get very serious about your meditation.
Yes.
Becomes a sacred time for you. Not because you're coming up with life revelations, but because you start recognizing that there is a power beneath that is working on your nervous system that you are not aware of. And you don't start noticing how much it affects you until you start losing your practice once you've started it. So Emily was like going like hot and heavy at the beginning of the program. And she was like, I'm going to meditate every day. I'm going to do it for this long. And then she was like so perfect about it. And then she came back to me like a bunch of months later and was like, something happened. And I was like, what? She's like, my meditation schedule has slid a little bit and I'm feeling it. And she's like, I'm going to bring it back. But now I think we're on like the third revival of you remembering
Oh, yeah.
how important it is, from like, it is an unseen, indescribable experience. You're not sitting there to relax yourself or to mentally prepare yourself for what's happening. You are literally just being.
Yeah. And it's
Mm.
like something, when I start doing it regularly, like my body starts craving it. Like, you notice if I go until like 4 or 5 p.m. and I haven't meditated, the few hours before that, I am a chaotic mess. Like, it's just,
It's like
your
if you
body.
don't eat or drink water.
Exactly. Except it's meditating now.
I love it.
Um,
So you're
so
meditating more.
meditating more. I'm doing breath work like pretty much the second I wake up, and before I go to bed. I get very particular about my sleep schedule. I just don't stay up late for no good reason, because I know I'll be staying up late later in the week, or I have other things coming up.
It's like currency,
Um,
sleep currency.
yeah. I also like make a point to not try to think too much about planning conversations in advance. I feel like with my social anxiety, I'm like, I'm going to talk about this, that, and the other thing. And then when the conversation doesn't go that way, it doesn't work.
Yeah. I used
So
to do
I,
that when
like,
I was younger. I used to like
I,
plan out conversations and I was like,
yeah,
why am I doing that? It's like, I don't have control over where that's going. So that was a waste of brain space for that amount of time.
exactly. So I like set a hard boundary when I start doing that. I'm like, nope, we're not doing that today. But yeah, those are my big things. And then having an escape plan.
Yeah, we'll talk about escape plans. We'll just segue into it now, I guess. And also, like, something that I do to prepare myself for the social situations is I try and take out the variables. So, like, for some of us, Emily knows that I don't like getting like dressed up to go places. I like to know what it is that I'm wearing and how I'm going to look before I get there. I have blow dried my hair today, guys, for the party tomorrow.
That looks great.
I just like to know that's just I don't have to think for the hour before the party. It's like, what am I going to do and how am I going to, it's like, I want to know I want to know my variables. If the variable is that I'm showing up and I'm going to have to feel that way for whatever reason, everything else is going to be controlled around me. The temperature of my house, like, you know what I mean? Like, I just want to know everything that is going to be in my control. So yeah, I would say, like, for example, tomorrow, it's like, you've known that I'm wearing that leather skirt
Yep.
for the last 3 weeks.
Yes.
And you've said, like, did you wear it yet? I'm like, no. You're like, when are you going to wear it? I'm like, at the party. Like, it's sitting there waiting with the socks that I'm going to put on.
Yeah. All of the like questioning, second guessing.
Yeah.
Not there.
It's not there anymore. So that's something about like a social situation. If you guys know that you get overstimulated before the social situation, take out the variables. There's nothing embarrassing about doing that. No one knows. Okay. Like, yeah, now everyone knows that I have my leather skirt out ready for the party tomorrow. And I swear to God, if I switch my outfit tomorrow, I'm not going to be a happy person tomorrow.
I'm not letting you switch the outfit.
But you are allowed to control variables. You're allowed to control the time you enter. You are allowed to control the time you exit, right? Knowing the plan of how it's going to go down, knowing the route of how you get there. A lot of you are anxious drivers. It's like you should know if you're going to a social situation, how you're going to get from point A to point B so that you don't feel like there's that variable that would make you personally anxious. And I think that there's a lot of judgment around this kind of stuff because you're around other people who are like, why aren't you chill? Like, just be like normal. And you're like,
You're like, I
"What?"
can't. I've tried that.
I tried that, but then I have a panic attack before I show up. But yeah, I do like that concept of controlling the variables. I also do like the concept of metaphysically, so let's say meditation or not, but metaphysically imagining yourself in the space. So not imagining yourself having the conversation because you don't know what's going to come up, and that's a waste of anxiety
Waste
of
of
no
time.
use.
Yeah.
But like, for example, I really hope my husband can't hear me right now. I absolutely hate going to a Christmas party that his family has. But I have to go. And the past few years were COVID, so I didn't have to go. But this year I have to go. And his mom sent me a message a month in advance and was like, this is what's happening. Jenna, start preparing yourself. We know you don't want to come. We know you're going to try and back out, but just it's happening and you just need to accept it. And I was like, okay. So I will mentally, like I've already started doing it. I mentally imagine myself in the space because I know what's going to make me anxious. I know I'm going to hate the cheese and crackers display and that the person whose house it's at is going to make me eat the cheese and crackers. And everyone knows I get a stomach ache when I eat, especially when I'm anxious. So I'm not going to make it through dinner, but she's still going to force me to eat that. And then they're going to shame me when I'm not eating the food at the table, which is going to make me more anxious. And then I have to tell them that I don't like turkey. So it's just like a whole thing. So I start almost like mentally situating myself in the space so that I can gain actual control. Because if you can metaphysically practice relaxing your nervous system, so like imagining yourself in a place, let's say I've always used it as an example. I don't like anything with breathing. I hated scuba diving. But when I was practicing scuba diving, I would mentally imagine myself breathing underwater so that I would get primed and ready for the time where I'm going to actually have to breathe underwater. It is the same way that for dance competitions, I used to prepare by mentally imagining myself nailing my turning section in my head so I didn't look like a shit show on stage. And then it would just happen on stage, right? I would just do better because metaphysically, your brain can prime your nervous system. So that is something like I've also pictured myself going to this party like all week, every single day. This is me at the party. This is what I'm wearing. This is who I'm talking to. Like I need to have that mental control of knowing I can handle this before I'm in that situation. Does anyone else do that? Like just naturally that you're like, oh yeah, I like think about that stuff. This is something they've studied on Olympic athletes, that they perform better in sport when you metaphysically imagine yourself partaking in the sport and the way that you want to perform.
That's interesting.
It is fascinating, isn't it?
You always have research.
I love research. Research is fun. If science isn't fun, what is it? Boring. But yeah, there's a lot of good research that science has done to give us great information. Why don't we use it? All right, let's move on to the next one. Some of the things I wrote down here are so funny. It's like, how am I going to expose Emily today?
Please don't.
Let's talk about tools in the moment. So like you're in the social situation, you're fucking anxious. You're like, hoo, I'm feeling this. What do you do?
I normally find something to fidget with. It does calm me down. I literally have a fidget toy in my hand right now as we've been talking this entire time. And then I do try to like get up and switch positions. Like if I can move my location, just like couch to chair.
Shift your space, shift your mood.
Exactly.
It's the motto.
Yeah, it really is. So those are like my two go-tos. I also try to like, if I know that I'm going to start feeling anxious, like I'm going to ask this person to go for a walk or like go do something instead of just like sitting there and like bracing through an entire conversation.
You're like, okay, I've reached my limit. We're at tolerance level. I need to leave now. Yeah, I'm definitely a fidgeter. I am guilty of this and it probably makes me look ruder than I am, but sometimes I just have a routine where I check my phone. Like
Yeah.
I'm not even going to open the notifications. I just do like a Twitch where I like open it up, like
Yep.
open up the Facebook, open up the Instagram, do a little bop bop on the stories, check an email. It's like sometimes I just need to be busy so that I can disengage, which doesn't look good from the outside looking in. And I recognize that, but sometimes that's enough to reset me to be like, whoo, back online. Right.
Yeah.
Something else I will do is I will actually go take quiet moments in the washroom.
Oh, I do that. I do
Yeah,
that a
no,
lot.
no one's in charge of how often you pee, guys. Just go.
Yeah. Nice moment
Taking a
alone.
moment,
Yeah.
taking a moment in the washroom. But my husband's not allowed. And if you were at a part, if it was me and you tomorrow and you said, I'm going to the washroom, I'd be like, I'm coming with you.
Yeah. Which is fair.
I'm allowed to pee. You're not allowed to pee.
Yeah.
So my husband going to the washroom, biggest nightmare. If we're at a social situation, if it's like an office party and he's gone to the washroom, I'm like, where's my phone? She's glued to my face now. I don't care. Like, I can't handle that because like small talk, again, disaster.
Yeah, I could literally be having a conversation with another person, and if the person that's there as my comfort person leaves, the conversation dies out. I can't continue that without
attachment, because then your out leaves, right? There is nothing wrong, and I'm going to say this very loudly in the screen, both to you and me, but also like a lot to me and then to everyone listening. You are allowed to excuse yourself when you feel uncomfortable. You are allowed to excuse yourself when you feel uncomfortable. You do not have to sit there and have small talk. You do not have to do what you're doing. You can actually just get up and say, oh, I actually need to go to the washroom really quick. Oh, I need to go do that. Oh, I have to go check something. Oh, I have to go make a call. You're allowed to check out. There is something that happens when we're socially anxious where we feel paralyzed.
Yeah.
Or we're like, do they see that I'm anxious? Oh my God, I have to stay. Oh my God. Oh my God. Hopefully they end this conversation soon. Hopefully they walk away. Hopefully they notice someone else that they want to talk to. It's like, who is holding you prisoner to this interaction? I'm guilty of it. I do the same thing. And that's why I just narrated it so easy. It's like, you are allowed to walk away for no reason. You can literally walk away mid-sentence and they'll be like, that was weird. And it's like, well, it had happened.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just, it doesn't matter about what anyone else thinks. Because if you sit there and you push yourself through that uncomfortable experience, where's the release? I talk about this in my masterclass. Like when humans are anxious, usually we just grin and bear it, right? We're like, it's so uncomfortable. But like animals, if I make my dog anxious, he shakes.
Yeah.
But like, we don't do that. Cause like when you're in a conversation with someone, you're not just going to be like, right. Cause then they'd be like, oh, are you okay? That would be weirder. Right. But you're allowed to exit and re-enter, or exit and not re-enter, because you need to reset yourself. And it doesn't matter what's at stake. But if you hold that in and you just like shove it down, you might be, this is a perfect example because you have fibro, or at least you were diagnosed with the exclusion, whatever. If anyone is listening to this and you have fibromyalgia, this will ring true to you. If you overexert yourself, you are going to pay for it for the next 6 days.
Yes.
And like the only answer to that is your nervous system has downloaded things and your default mode network in the brain did not sift through things. And now it's affecting your entire body. And if you don't know what the default mode network is, that's a part of your brain that is picking out information that is, yes, this is important to pay attention to. And that's just fluff. Like when you walk into the grocery store and you're like, I need eggs, you walk in and you go, where are the eggs? You don't walk in and go, lettuce, apples, bananas, carrots. It's like your brain just goes. Some of you are like, no, my brain does do that. But if you are on a mission, that's what the default mode network in the brain does. It's the mission of your life, right? When you go into the kitchen because you're like, oh, I'm hungry. It's like, I'm going to get food. It doesn't go, oh, there's a table, there's a chair, there's a microphone, there's a computer, there's a light. It doesn't, it sifts. Right. So that is what happens if you're in a social situation and you're not honoring your nervous system. If you have something like fibromyalgia, your body in the next few days is just like, poof.
Yeah.
Like you are shot.
It knocks you out.
Yeah. That's actually a huge topic. We'll get there one day. We'll talk about it. Everyone's super interested. They're all like, fibromyalgia. What happens when we do that? Do I have fibromyalgia? Welcome to the anxiety group. So the tools that we all can use are in the moment, breath work. What's stopping you from breathing? No one can see you breathing. I talked about this with a patient the other day. He was like, my breathing is like, it's gotten so good. I'm using it all the time. I'm like, that's amazing. And then he's like, but then this thing happened in public today. And like, I forgot about my breath work. I'm like, why? Are you embarrassed that someone's watching you do it? He's like, yeah, it's weird. Like, I don't want someone to see me do it. I'm like, we're all breathing though.
You actually need to.
Shocker. We're all breathing. Okay, so just breathe. Like, do the exercise. No one's going, are you doing alternate nostril breathing? And like, you're a part of Peace of Mind method and like you have anxiety. Like, no one's asking you that. Like, just breathe, right? Like, do the breath work in public. I do the breath work in public all the time. If I'm like waiting in line.
Oh, yeah.
Waiting in line. My best friend tells me I have a chaotic sway. Okay. When I have a chaotic sway, I'm like, I gotta get to my breath work right now. Cause like, I'm like, my body's like doing something that I'm not consenting to. So I have to breathe when I'm in line. Cause there's something about it where I feel trapped or like, I can't wait or like, I can't get to where I need to get. There's like, someone's like, there's an obstacle. It's invisible, but there's an obstacle because there's people before me and it makes me really anxious. So I have to breathe. And it's like, okay, use the tool in the moment. No one's judging you. No one's noticing. I mean, you're not Wim Hof breathing. We're not jumping in an ice bath being like, like you don't have to look like an ape. Like you just need to just breathe, right? Like do some of the breath work. Like all the breath work that you've done in the program, it's like use those tools while you're feeling anxious in the moment if you need to use it, right?
I've honestly done it on work calls. Like,
yeah, when someone's like talking over you or like,
yeah. Or like things just get a little heated. You're like, okay, I need to bring myself back down before I engage with all of this.
Yeah. I do it when I'm arguing a lot. So does my husband. He'll turn around and be like, I like turn around. I'm like, hey, Gandhi, ready to keep going? Rah! But yeah, no, breath work, amazing tool. The boundaries, like we talked about. Okay, I'm walking away from this now. It's making me uncomfortable. Don't know why. I can't put a finger on it, but I'm just going to exit. Taking the time to spend time with yourself, recharging in the washroom. I feel like we're prepping people for Christmas parties right now.
I'm thinking about all of the things I have coming up. I'm like, this is great.
Yeah. Also, underrated, like going out and walking before you have to go do what you need to do, because you're not amping your nervous system up by working out and you're not fatiguing yourself by doing that, but you are neutralizing. Walking is one of the most neutralizing human activities you can do because it makes you methodical, right? It's like step, 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 step. And then you go, it's almost like doing a little dance before you go into an anxious situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like it. And then we already talked about exposing yourself, telling people that you're feeling anxious.
Yep.
And then controlling variables.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that sounds like a good plan for some people so far. And if you're sitting here listening and you're like, no, but like I can't. It's like, yes, you can. You can do all of these things that we've talked about today. There is actually no excuse why you can't. You just haven't done it. So you don't know that it works and you're saying that you can't, but that's just like, I'm going to give you a little ha and just tell you, just do it. Do it and tell me what you find.
At your next Christmas party, just try one of the things.
I'm going to be like typing in the Facebook group, guys, I'm at the Christmas party right now. It is as terrible as I told you it was going to be on that live.
You go live at the Christmas party.
Yeah, we do. I want to cover a few more things. I know we've been here for an hour. Are you guys doing okay over there? Like I know we're live and you're just listening, but like, are you still engaged and you're good and I can keep talking? Give me a thumbs up if you still have a pulse. Let me know that everything is going well over there so that I know that we are good and still I'm seeing thumbs float all over the screen.
Yeah, how did they do that?
I love emojis. Okay. So, I mean, I'm going to triage a little bit over here.
Okay.
So I talked about us being social creatures and our biology and our nervous systems and wanting to feel comfortable. Yeah. We are going to talk about some natural medicines, ones that you've tried, and ones that I've tried and stuff like that. And stuff that shows that it does well for anxiety and the research. But can we quickly talk about when social anxiety can pop up even in familiar territory? So like, even when you're like with a best friend or you're like with someone who maybe you've been seeing for a long time, or like for me, it's so palpable when I'm like with my parents and I'm like, you've been here my whole life. And like, I still feel socially anxious around like eating a meal around you or like just sitting at the kitchen table until we're talking about something really deep. So
Yeah.
like, I'm just curious if that comes up for you. I was so close to the screen when I said that. Like, I'm telling a scary story with a flashlight under my chin. The scary stories of the Tabachnik kitchen table.
Yeah, that's something that's been coming up for me a lot lately. Um, and I mean, who knows why? It's just happening. Um, but when it does, with my friends, it's a lot easier for me to be like, hey, I don't know if it's a transition in life thing. People are in different phases.
Ooh, I hate that. I felt that recently too.
Yeah, you're like,
Ugh.
ooh, like we so much love and respect and kindness and all the good things, but like different phases of life. And then the social anxiety kicks in because I'm like, I don't know where to go with this conversation.
You also don't know how to operate when your body is so used to being like the younger version of you with that person, and you can't integrate it with the now, and it like makes your body like, ugh, like it's like your nervous system has programmed what it once was, and it can't understand what's happening in the now. Like
Yep.
the facts aren't aligned, they're not making sense, and like you can't process it. Ew, I had that feeling recently too, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling. So I've had that kind of thing happen. And also, I mean, anything around the kitchen table, there's a meal, there's conversation. And if people are just talking about work, I'm not there.
Hmm.
Like, I'm checked out from it. So I do get that a lot with people that I am really close with. I'm now in the practice of telling people like, hey, this is kind of going on for me right now. Or no one cares. They're just like, okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know. And then we work from there.
Yeah, you've actually gotten better at that since we started working together. Like at the beginning, you were just like, I can't say that. And I was like, yes, you can. And what Emily's describing right now is she has a safety sentence. It's like you practice it in your head. This is how I
Yeah.
feel, and this is what I need to happen. And it's like when you practice it, it doesn't become as weird when it's coming out of your mouth. You're like,
Yeah.
this is what I need right now, and that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I have my safety sentence is when I'm in an argument with someone and I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth, I always lead with, this is going to come out messy because like I haven't practiced this and I don't know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to
Yeah.
try. And we can have safety sentences with social anxiety in that situation. And the reason why I put this on my list of things to talk about was because I had a weird moment with my father last week where he was like, do you want to come hang out with me? And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, like that's weird. We don't hang out, but sure, I'll come hang
Mhm.
out with you. Thought he was going to ask for my help with something, some technology, something. So I come over and like he goes, do you want to go on a walk? And I was like, okay. But like I could tell how weird I was. Like I didn't know how to operate in this like dynamic where my dad just wants to hang out with me. And it made me extremely socially anxious. And I saw myself going to the point where I started oversharing. And I'm like, why am I telling my dad this? But then like we got back after our walk, we like sat in the kitchen, welcome to the Tabachnik kitchen table where bad things happen usually. And we sit down and like, it's like he completely like just disengaged and started living his life as if I wasn't even there. And I actually had to stop him and was like, I'm like feeling really weird right now because like you invited me over to hang out with you. But now I'm like, you're going off and doing your own thing, but like I'm only here to hang out with you. And I'm feeling socially anxious about that. And in alignment with what I do, my dad just like went in to start having like a very deep conversation. And like I kind of just penetrated it and went there. And I felt great after because I'm like, oh, there we go. Now I feel like normal and connected. But it was so weird. So social anxiety can come up even with people that you feel really comfortable with. It can happen with you and your partners. You can be like perfectly fine and perfectly connected in one moment and then like super awkward and uncomfortable
Yeah.
in the next, passing by each other in the kitchen. Like it just happens. So I don't want people to read too far into it. It doesn't mean that your nervous system's always telling you something, or there's good and there's bad, and there's like, intuition, and you have to follow your gut. It's like sometimes a situation just needs to be tweaked a little bit for you to gain more comfort and tell someone what it is that you need. Right? Like
Mhm.
I used to feel super awkward as a kid when my dad would walk in the kitchen and not say anything to me. I'd be like, how do you enter a room and exit a room without saying anything? So then my dad just like, he heard what I said and he would just start saying random shit when he walked by me just to please the thing that I needed, which was like, you can't just ignore me if I'm in a room. That makes me feel socially uncomfortable because now I think I've done something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's fascinating. And I think that this social anxiety piece, we always associate it with strangers or going to a party or going out to a dinner, but like it can happen in your own home. And you have to acknowledge what it is that your nervous system needs so that you can voice that. And that does take a lot of introspective work for you to go, okay, what is it that I'm feeling? What is it that I need? What is going on? What did that make me feel? What was that linked to from my childhood? Or what was that linked to from whatever experiences I've had with you as a person that just reminded me of that or triggered me to this? So it is fascinating how it can pop up. No one goes unscathed by it. And I think that a lot of people don't recognize that they have it for that reason. They'll just be like, oh, well, that was weird. It's like, well, what was weird about it? What made you feel weird about it? How can we unravel that and be a little bit more creative about how we're thinking about it? And I think a lot of us would recognize that social anxiety is a more common experience. It's just we're experiencing it in different places, right? Some people may have a lot of trouble opening up intimately, like one-to-one with someone. Some people may be life of the party. How many people do we know they're life of the party but can't stay with someone over like a year? Right? It's like there's obviously a social anxiety that's coming with that type of interaction. And I think that if we all start to recognize that people are having this universal experience and that we can level with each other, I think that there would be a lot more comfort in knowing that, you know, you're not the only one, but also some people don't even recognize that that is what's going on with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was me for a long time.
Yep.
I just didn't know. I was like, why am I so weird all the time? Like, I just didn't know. And it makes a lot more sense now. Now that we're like almost an hour and 15 minutes in, can we talk about natural medicines really quick?
Sure.
Okay. Because you've had experience. So I prescribed Emily liposomal GABA before that she used for situational bouts of panic or anxiety. So why don't you tell them about your experience with that?
Yeah. So when I was using it most frequently, it was more in relation to waking up with panic. But I found it always brought me back down like within an hour. Like it was a very immediate relief. I don't understand how it works.
I'm going to explain it. So the reason why I love and hate GABA, and I love it because it's amazing for situational stress and situational increases in cortisol. It is terrible as an anxiety treatment. Okay. If something lasts a short amount of time and isn't regulating your nervous system, it's a terrible anxiety treatment, right? Because anxiety is present all the time in our bodies and in our brains. However, if we are using it in situations where we need to lower panic so that we're not falling into a panic attack, or we actually need to get back to sleep, or we do have to go to a party that we really don't want to go to and we don't want to be anxious there, we can use those tools. So in the research, what GABA does very well is for that hour or two after you take it, it decreases your cortisol levels directly. So the way that they studied it is they would stress out a human being and say like, okay, we're going to make you walk a tightrope over from here to here. And obviously the human being is going to have an adrenaline response to that, right? So they would do it with and without GABA in the same people. Obviously, if we're doing a randomized control trial, we're going to have to use the same people as the variables with and without medication. So they would do it, and then they would do a salivary cortisol test, which is the quick way to test if the cortisol is rising or not. And the cortisol was not able to rise as high when they had taken the GABA, which is amazing because if you are knowing that you're going to be in an anxious state or you're putting yourself into a situation, you can protect your body, you can protect your body's inflammation and your nervous system response to adrenaline by taking something that's going to lower cortisol. Does that make sense? Or was that like way too sciencey for everyone?
That makes sense.
You've heard me say this before, right?
Yeah, that you said it again. I do know how it works.
Yeah. So that's why I like liposomal GABA. The one that Emily was taking and probably still does take is like a squirt under the tongue. You let it sublingually digest into the bloodstream as quickly as possible. There's also chewables for this purpose. If you are someone who said, oh, I did research and I take GABA and I take it every day and it helps with my anxiety, it's like, okay, you are really just like band-aiding moments of feeling anxious, but your anxiety is 100% popping back up every single day. And that's why you still have to take the GABA. So it's not meant to be used in the way that I think it's being presented to the world. Like if you type this in a blog post, someone's going to be like, it's amazing for anxiety. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like you have to look at the research and understand what it is that it's doing for a medication or a treatment, natural or not, to be effective. Okay. The same way that a lot of you have taken benzodiazepines or lorazepam for your anxiety, that is situational. You take it so that there's an anti-anxiety effect for a certain amount of time, and you have to repeat take it. And that's why it is the most addictive drug in the history of time. Okay. You have to take it for it to still work. It's very difficult to come off, because when you come off of the medication, the withdrawal symptoms are the anxiety that you now think are popping back up because you're not taking it. So we end up in a little bit of a shitstorm, or like a poopy cycle of using those medications, let's say not in the way that they're really meant to be used. So I do like GABA for that purpose.
I also
Yeah,
like the liposomal because it's cold and the liquid, like the sensation of it,
like
kind
mindful.
yeah, it's very mindful versus like chewing on a pill. I don't really get the
That's-
same
yeah.
sensation.
It's like ASMR for medicine.
Yeah.
Something else that I wrote down is like, like you guys go to a party and you're like, oh, I'm just going to have a drink to take off the edge. How many of us have said that? Say I, raise your hand, put it in the chat. Like you all know that you do that. Okay. Like I don't do it just for science so that I can experiment on myself and see what happens. Okay. But tomorrow I will, in fact, have a drink. Okay. Something that's really good and very comparable to the way that having a glass of wine would feel is a plant called kava. This is not me prescribing it to you. It's not me saying you should use it, but it is a very helpful, short-acting relaxant for the nervous system. There was a lot of backlash that I got back in the day where people were having like liver damage from it because they were abusing it. We don't do that in my practice, but we do use it because it's very helpful. And sometimes it gives people that sensation of, yeah, I did have a drink and I want that feeling of being calm and chill and cool, but I'm not drinking alcohol. Okay, so that is a fascinating one. There's also a plant called valerian, which a lot of people have heard of because it is one of the most overwritten about plants. Personally, I don't like using valerian. I've had some uncomfortable experiences with it because I get a paradoxical reaction to the plant. I don't get drowsy. I get very alert and uncomfortable. That can happen to anyone on any plant, which is why we always want to work with a doctor. Because a lot of people will take something and be like, I don't know why this is happening. It's like, well, you don't even know what you're taking. So it is important to make sure that you are being prescribed these things. There's also red flags to look out for before you start taking this stuff, which is why it is super important to work with someone instead of just swallowing capsules over the internet. Please don't do that. But the research for valerian does show that it acts typically like a benzodiazepine, where it would calm you down in the moment. So it's why it is so popular. I personally haven't seen it work amazingly in practice, which is why I don't tend to prescribe it, but it does perform well in the research, and the masses at large love valerian. Okay. It also smells like absolute trash, garbage, shit can. So don't be surprised if you ever sniff it and it smells like dirty feet. I was literally looking for a sock underneath my bed for months, thinking that there was something trapped like in my mattress. It was just the valerian capsules that Dan was using to fall asleep at night. Just letting you know. Okay. Something else that I liked using before is passion flower because it's more of a calming effect without it being drowsy, and it does tend to work when you take it. And then I also wrote down, like, for some of you guys who are not ready to like push it to the limit and actually try a natural medicine, people love sleepy time tea, right? How many of you had a sleepy time tea and you're like, wow, I had such a good sleep? It's like, okay, great. That's only chamomile. Just take it before you go out. You're not going to like fall asleep at dinner. And if you are, it will be the same as having a glass of wine. So just like go for it, right? Why not use a very easy plant medicine that is sitting in your cabinet from I was going to say the drugstore, but is it like a drugstore in the States too?
I think so.
Like we have it at Shoppers, like you can buy sleepy time tea. So they have it at CVS. Someone confirm. Yeah. Do you guys have like sleepy time tea at CVS? Amazon? I don't know. Anyway, so that's like a really quick and easy thing that you can do. It's not even medicating. You are just getting a shot of chamomile and it's going to relax you a little bit more if that's what you're looking for without being drowsy. If anyone says that sleepy time tea actually makes you drowsy and changes your sleep, like you must be not working through that many sleep problems. Okay. So I feel like that was a quick rundown just for you guys to get some education on what I would use and what Emily has tried before to help with this kind of stuff. Because there are ways to treat it that are natural. But they also have to be balanced with lifestyle stuff too. We can't just be like Emily wasn't like, "Okay, I'm going to do nothing and we're just going to squirt liposomal GABA." She recognizes that there's effort to be put in all these different areas so that we are experiencing the benefits that we want. Okay. So I feel like we could kind of wrap it there because we've been firing convo for so long. Do I have any questions that are sitting inside this chat right now? Do you guys have any questions you want to ask that I can answer super, super fast? I'm going to go through the chat and see what's here. You can leave the question in the chat or you can do it in the Q&A section and I will check. Sorry, guys, I'm reading. Ryan, that's a funny comment. I wish sometimes I would take my phone and pretend a family member was calling with an emergency just so I could get out of things. I'm just such a bad liar. I couldn't even begin to try that.
Oh, I've got hard to like text friends and be like, "Hey, you need to call me right now. I gotta go."
No, I just like leave. I'm like okay, guys, this is like a funny way to segue out of this, but like I am the queen of the Irish goodbye. I do not like transitions. I don't like saying hello to people and I don't like saying goodbye. Like people know when you're in my house, you just walk in the fucking door. Don't like stand at the front and say, "Hi, like how you doing?" Just like walk in, make it as quick as possible and leave as quickly as possible. Do not hug me goodbye. Just get out. I always try to Irish goodbye and my husband always goes, "No, we have to say thank you and like tell them like that we had." I'm like, "No, I'm leaving."
You're like, I have to leave right now or it's never gonna happen.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate transitions. Yeah. We talked about that the last time.
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's see if we get any questions. For Emily, what have you realized has changed with you doing all of the practice with meditation and vitamins?
Everything.
My entire life.
No, like I know that sounds really dramatic, but truly everything. Like I can get through way more without having noticeable symptoms. Not saying I don't experience anxiety anymore. I don't experience depression or challenging social situations. It's just my tolerance and my recovery from things is way quicker. So I can turn things around a lot faster than I used to. Yeah.
That was also the same answer from one of the girls who just started the program a month ago. She wanted to just try the meditation and breath work without doing any supplements. She's like, "I just want to see." And she was like, "It's been a month. I don't really know if anything's changed, but like, here's what I did notice." And then she started like going on this whole thing. And I was like, "Did you hear what you just said? Like, your life's different. You didn't spiral. You didn't react. You didn't fall into a depression when something really bad happened." And like, we were like going through the list. And she was like, "Whoa." She's like, "I guess like the meditation and breath work like really did make an impact." And like it almost shocks you because you're not seeing it happen. You're not seeing it change. And it's like you can't put your finger on it. It's very fascinating. And that's why I always say to people, I'm not going to convince you. Just do it and experience it and tell me what you find. My job is not here to sell you on meditation. I'm not Bikram Chowdhury and I'm not trying to get you a part of my cult. I just want you to try it and I want you to see what happens. Right.
And the interesting thing is like sometimes you're not the one to realize it. Like people that I've been friends with for 10 years and I don't see them for a couple months and whatever, I come back from doing this program, they're like, "Emily, what is going on? Like you just seem different." And all of the changes, and so many things can happen, and I'm fine. It's really okay. And it's other people letting me know that like I have had a lot of change in my life.
Yeah. Third party recognition is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Alex wants to know how often and how long are you meditating and doing your breath work? You already said you're doing it every day for 30 minutes right now.
Yeah.
But you built up to this over time, and that you're doing the breath work in the morning and the evening and then as needed, which is how it's prescribed in the program
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the funny thing is like, and Alex, I'm not singling you out because this would be you and 500 other people that messaged me this week, but they'll be like, what should I do? What should my plan be? And I go, okay, here's the thing. I can give you a plan. That's not the issue. You can go on Google right now and say, how long should I meditate for? How often should I meditate for? What breath work should I do? How often should I do breath work? It's not about that. It's about the consistency and the accountability, and having someone who's actually working with you, who is in it with you. And like, if it was as easy as saying, okay, how often should I do breath work and meditate? Then we all know breath work and meditation is good for us. Why haven't you done it yet?
Because it's wildly uncomfortable when you start doing it, and you need
Yes.
someone to help. Like I remember, even we do 5 minutes in the first week or something of,
You started with a 12. It was like a 12-minute, each recording was 12 minutes
oh, okay, cool. Didn't know that.
for
What's
the
in-
meditation, not the breath work, right?
for
Or the breath work.
meditation. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really challenging. And when things are hard, it's easy to like cut yourself some slack. But when you know you're reporting back to someone, like you'll actually stick with it.
Yeah. And also when you're having the conversations about what's happening, it becomes a lot more intellectual than just sitting and doing it.
Yeah.
Like, it's so funny, like even breathworks in my arsenal. Why am I waiting? Let's say I'm going to use it when I'm in a interpersonal interaction where I'm like already crying, and it's like, I just want to stop and I want to shift my mood. It's like, why am I waiting till that point to do it? Right? Like, we all want to say, oh, I have these tools, but it's about how you utilize them. And again, like learning the consistency, learning the mindsets around this stuff. And I think that makes a huge difference, because we can all go and look at a blog and be like, how do I fix this? How do I fix anxiety? Like, you go on and you'll see a whole list. What's stopping you from doing it? Why aren't you changing your life? It's because it's not life changing. You need to work in an environment where it becomes life changing. And I can't stress that enough. Like, I did breath work and meditation and did the cognitive behavioral therapy for so long. And I was like, hey, I'm doing it. I'm smart. But it wasn't until I was in a life-changing situation where those tools were being used, where I was like, oof, like, holy shit, I can't believe what's on the other side of this that I actually couldn't see because I had blind spots before to it. So that's what I'm going to leave that conversation with, which is, it's not as easy as just tell me what to do and I'll do it, until you're in a setting where you feel like you are being pushed against your resistance, which is why I work with people. It's not hard to teach someone how to breathe. It's hard to teach someone when to know that they need to breathe, and how they're going to create the schedule around breathing, and how they're going to notice the triggers when they are going to have to do that type of thing, and how their brain is responding to the thing that's happening in their body that's now cycling about this, and what cognitive distortion is popping up there. It starts to become a little bit more nuanced, right? Than just breathe. Do you know how many people I see in the group? Oh, just do box breathing. It'll like fix everything. I'm like, yeah, great. We love box breathing. We're going to learn that technique when we're in Peace of Mind method, but like, it's not fixing everything. Like, if that's making your life better, like, I don't know how sticky the anxiety and the depression is if like box breathing is fixing it. Right.
Yeah.
That was just my little haha funny, because sometimes I have to vent to some of the things that I see in there. Right. Rhiannon, so in regards to meditation, since I had a hysterectomy in June, I've had serious vivid nightmares. When I can actually get sleep, I feel like I'm awake mentally still, and so meditation kind of freaks me out. Okay, Emily can actually really resonate with this. I think we should do a whole live once on like your sleep paralysis, so people understand what you had, and how you worked through it, and how it still presents itself sometimes, and what that signals to you and all that kind of stuff. So Rhiannon, we're gonna save that question for a whole different live, because Emily actually has a crazy fucked up experience that is very fascinating. So we will talk about that.
It happened to me for like 10 years and I was still able to correct it 10 years after experiencing this. So yeah, it's possible.
Yay. We will do. That'll be my next live. Why not? That's fun.
Yeah.
And if I'm seeing someone say, how can I work with you? Are you in the Facebook group? Please answer yes or no. You can simply just send me a Facebook message and we can chat from there. Because I don't want to put my link to book a call in the live. So send me a private Facebook message. Okay. I want to make sure that I am hearing everything here. Do. Okay. Are we good? No more questions? We're feeling solid, understanding more about social anxiety, feeling like we're ready to take on the Christmas season. I'm not, but I'm going to do it tomorrow. Just kidding. I'm actually really excited. I think it's going to be a fun time. And now we'll get to laugh a lot more because you'll be like watching everything that's happening on my face, being like,
We're doing it for science.
Yeah. Guys, we should do a live from the Christmas party tomorrow.
Insane.
Social anxiety in real time. All right. I hope all of you have a lovely rest of your night, a fantastic sleep. I hope you have a great Christmas season if I don't personally speak to any of you. And if you do decide that you are ready to take the next step to actually doing something about all this, I understand that it's scary. Like Emily was scared. I get it. But we did work very well together to get the results that you're seeing now. And I've worked very hard to get the results that you guys are seeing from me now. So it is really just around the corner. Okay. I hope you all have a great night again, a great sleep. I hope I have a great sleep because my sleep schedule lately has been something's going on. I'm going to go meditate.
You know what? I'm going to do the same.
All right. Challenge you from 9. Well, it's 9:05. So like, let's do like a 9. You want to do a full half an hour?
Yeah.
Okay. So like a 9:10 to a 9:40.
Yeah. I'll set my alarm.
All right. This is going to be exciting. Guys, peace out. Emily, I will see you tomorrow at the party.
Yeah. Bye.
All right.